In this homework assignment that's going to be collected for a grade, a quiz grade, I'm asking you to connect Celsius temperatures with Fahrenheit temperatures using linear algebra. We're going to be using linear algebra to actually figure out the formula of how to convert a Celsius temperature into a Fahrenheit, okay, or I should say a Fahrenheit temperature into a Celsius. And once you have one formula, you can derive the other. But essentially, I'm looking for that very famous formula where Celsius equals some number, and the Fahrenheit temperature's in there somewhere. And how do I convert Celsius into Fahrenheit? I can't tell you how many questions I get from people all the time. They say, Mr. Grodsky, oh, you're a chemistry teacher. Oh, great, great. Can you convert 38 degrees Fahrenheit into Celsius for me? And vice versa. And they do this all the time to me. And I'll tell you, to do this conversion, I think of linear algebra all the time. So we're going to use something you've already learned and put it to good use. So let's get started. So the first thing for number one is I would like you, okay, to come up with the graph. All right, so here's the opening page here. So let's go find the graph. Well, let's make a graph. Well, you have to have some equivalents first. So here's some plots first. So we have 30 degrees Fahrenheit we know is equal to 0 degrees Celsius, and we know that 212 Fahrenheit is equal to 100 degrees Celsius. And these are particular important fixed points that we're going to use. And these fixed points is, of course, the melting point temperature of water and the boiling point temperature of water. And these are fixed points that we'll talk about later, but the melting and the boiling of water, okay, at a particular standard pressure are numbers that stay constant. And then again, that discussion is for a different time. But these are fixed points for what water does at particular temperatures, and these are fixed points that have been used for the development of the, of course, Celsius and Fahrenheit thermometer, okay, more so the Celsius. But in any case, what we're going to do is we're going to use these fixed points to come up with a linear equation that links both of them. So what you're going to do in your graph is you're going to take your y-axis, okay, and we'll make a y-axis equal to Celsius, sorry, and then our y-axis will be Fahrenheit. Okay, now I want you to use up most of the page. I'm just giving you some things to think about in terms of how you do this on a smaller version, but I would like you to use the most of the graph below. Okay, now we have some fixed points. Well, we know this is 0 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm just going to quickly make this, I'm going to approximate here. This is, let's say, 212 degrees Fahrenheit. And of course, make this about 100 degrees Celsius, and of course this is 0 degrees Celsius as well. Okay, so we're going to plot our points, no big deal. You'll take your 212 degrees Fahrenheit, and at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, the boiling point of water in Fahrenheit, it's also 100 degrees Celsius. So there's your plot right there, there's your 1 point. And of course, your other point is going to be at 0 degrees Celsius. Remember, this is your x, right? X and y. So, and of course, I'm sorry, let's do this point first. This is going to be 100, and then this is 212. That's a standard way we plot our points. And the next one is we have 0 and 32. And I'm just approximating here. So this is about 50, something like this. Okay, there's my point, and I'm going to write the point over here as my 0, 32. Alright, so let's connect these points the best that I can. Not a great straight line, but you get the idea. We use a straight edge when you really do it. Okay, now I have this straight line, supposedly, and these 2 points are connected linearly, so therefore I can use something called linear algebra, y equals mx plus b, something you've used many times before, and we're going to use this for a purpose. We must have used this for lab or in math a few times, and we're going to put this to good use. We're going to actually build a formula that converts the Fahrenheit temperature into Celsius using this formula. And this is something I do in my head when people ask me all the time how to convert a certain Fahrenheit temperature into Celsius. And we'll do more of this in class. But clearly speaking, we have a y, which we know to be the y-axis. Of course, the y-axis, okay, is our Celsius. The x-axis is our Fahrenheit. And we have the b, we should know, is the y-intercept, right? That is the number that we get when the line crosses the y-axis. So these numbers or values or representative unknowns are something we know already. It's the m is something we're going to work with. The m, of course, is the slope. Now the slope, as you've learned a million times before, is the change of y over the change of x. So you're going to use change of y over the change of x, and you're going to use the values of y and x. Of course, this is y. So x and y. So you're going to take your y's, and you're going to find the difference of those. You're going to take your x's and find the difference of those, and you're going to come up with a value of your slope, which equals your m. And then that way you can build your formula. So if you go to number 2, number 1 is just asking you to plot a graph. That graph should have a title, as we talked about. It should have units. It should have or plotted points or x's, and even this equation here. From that, you should be able to build the exact equation for the following. Well, remember, y equals mx plus b. We're trying to solve for the conversion factor for Fahrenheit converting into Celsius. Okay, our y-axis, if you remember, is our Celsius. So we're going to take, okay, our c, and it's equal to the slope, which we're going to calculate. And then, of course, our x, what's our x? Our x on our graph is our Fahrenheit. And our y-intercept from there. So pretty simple stuff to build the formula. Celsius is what we're running into. Using a Fahrenheit temperature, we should be able to come up with a formula based off the graph. And again, that is what I do in my head. I look at this graph in my head and think of how these guys differ. Okay, I know the slope, and I can make some adjustments. Okay, notice you're going from a, if you're going from Celsius, if we're going from Fahrenheit, I'm sorry, if you're starting with a Fahrenheit temperature, okay, and you're going to convert it to Celsius, then you can see some of the things you're going to have to do to manipulate that temperature. Okay, this number, remember Fahrenheit's a bigger scale from 0 to 212. So you probably got to make this number smaller. So this number is going to affect this. And then, of course, this B also adjusts for the 0. We'll talk more about that. But that's all you're doing there. Pretty simple stuff. Number 2, most students have problems with because they say, well, how do I find the temperature where Fahrenheit equals Celsius? I know that you can look it up online. I know that you can find that answer somewhere. But I want you to show you work how you're going to do that. And what I will say is this. You can do this 2 ways. You can do it graphically. Now, what does graphically mean? Well, based on your graph, okay, you should be able to look at this graph and somehow figure out where the Celsius and the Fahrenheit will equal each other. Now, don't look at my graph because my graph is drawn by hand. Look at your graph. If you were precise in what you were doing, you should be able to figure out where those temperatures will be the same, where Celsius equals Fahrenheit. Or you can do it algebraically. Once you build your equation, you're looking for what? Where Fahrenheit equals the Celsius, where they're the same temperature, solve for that temperature. So you can use the equation, okay, knowing we're looking for the same number, okay, or set something equal to each other and solve for that temperature. I don't care if you do it from the graph perspective or the equation perspective, but please give me with the temperature at which Celsius equals Fahrenheit. Okay, what temperature are they the same? Okay, and that's a very basic assignment. I want to see you all work. I want to see your graph. I want to put a title on your graph. I want to see the axes are labeled and what units. I want to see it plotted out. I want to see it work. It's not a big deal, but it's a nice way to show you how linear algebra actually has a use, and an important use, to connect two linear equations. Okay? To come up with a linear equation that converts one into another. All right, hope that helped explain the homework. Good luck.